What's up, Dosa Dion? What's up, Rad? Hey, my name is Michael Banks. Please vote for me every day at FordHallOfFans.com. Boot up.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be doing another episode of Lions Latest, where we go through the latest Detroit Lions news. And in the past 24 hours, there's really been a lot going on, not just with the Lions, but also in the NFL. We're not going to get to the rest of the NFL stuff, but there has been a lot going on. However, we do have some Lions news as well. And the Senior Bowl going on, we got to hear from Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Aaron Glenn, Deuce Staley. You got to hear from all those guys. This video should be, and I know every time I say this is not true, this video should be much shorter than our videos have been recently. So let's hope that's the case. Let's get it started.
The city's been down, and it found a way to get up. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. We're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Today, we're just quickly going to kind of go through some of the latest Lions news.
But I live in Whoville.
Well, then, Whoville's us back.
Offensive coordinator candidate search updates. The defensive coordinator position, if Aaron Glenn is out, if he does get a head coaching job, specifically with the New Orleans Saints, and where the Lions would go at that point. A couple of notes that we have from guys like Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell from the Senior Bowl. It's not a lot to do with players. And again, we'll touch on that a lot more tomorrow because it'll be the final day of practice. And then, of course, we'll have the Senior Bowl game, which we'll hit on probably on the weekend. We'll talk more about that. So we have those upcoming things to really dive into some of these players and guys that stood out through the Senior Bowl, maybe guys that helped their stock, that hurt their stock, who would fit for the Lions. It'll be really nice post Senior Bowl to really go through all of this. First, start with head coach Dan Campbell and what he said to the Lions media. And this really, the headline that's been coming from all of this is what he said about Sean Payton. So we know Sean Payton retired. He's taking a step away from the game. Some people believe that he'll come back at some point. Again, I don't know if you guys have seen that movie yet. They got on Netflix about Sean Payton. I know Kevin James is playing Sean Payton. You know what's weird is now that I've watched that, I picture Kevin James instead of Sean Payton. I'm like, hold up, it's messing me up. It really is. They don't even look that much alike. I'm gonna be honest. Anyway, it's throwing me off now. Every time I say Sean Payton, I picture Kevin James in my head. I'm like, that's not right. It just doesn't work right. But what Dan Campbell said about Sean Payton was this. He's going to use Sean Payton this offseason as a sounding board. Now, this could be for many different things when it comes to the draft, free agency, the direction of the team, I guess the quarterback position, really anything he needs help on. It even could go and boil down to the offensive coordinator hiring if they do decide to hire someone, if he has someone that he recommends for that position. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. But he said that he would use Sean Payton this offseason as a sounding board. And he said now that he is no longer coaching, he should have a little bit more free time. It's funny, this could actually kind of be like the movie, a little bit, flipped a little bit. Sean Payton being sort of the mentor to Dan Campbell, whereas in the movie, Sean Payton's the mentor to the Little League coach.
You need help.
Payton is going to be our new offensive coordinator.
I'm sorry. Dan Campbell says, I think the world of him. He brought the best out of his players. He knows how to motivate and get the best out of the players, but also put them in a position to be successful and get the most out of the players that he has. So I guess that's where Dan Campbell got it from, because his quote that he used was something that he said that he was good at, which was finding a way to motivate players. Remember when he hired him and he said that different guys, they get motivated differently? Well, that's something that he said Sean Payton does really well. So he's going to use Sean Payton this offseason, he said, as a sounding board now that he has retired, at least for this year. We'll see what happens with Payton. I don't know if he's going to decide to come back or what. Down with that. I mean, he can help with everything. Anything he wants to help with, I'm down with it. That's a nice little mentor to have that you can reach out to help you in any situation. You know, Dan Campbell's going to take a lot from the New Orleans Saints page and from the Sean Payton page. One way that Sean Payton could help Dan Campbell, maybe not, but one way he could is possibly the offensive coordinator search, depending on when the Lions decide to hire him. With a guy like Sean Payton, he said that they would probably meet up sometime around in the spring. He said he used him as a sounding board. I'm sure you could just text him and call him and things like that, FaceTime him, whatever y'all want to do, Snapchat, whatever y'all got to do. But he said they would be meeting up at some time in spring. So maybe this is down the road and it has nothing to do with the offense coordinator. Maybe they already figured that out and this isn't a guy that's really giving an input on that, but he possibly could. However, let's talk about the offensive coordinator position, because Holmes was asked about the offensive coordinator position. He said he had no updates about that. Maybe he was just leaving it to Dan Campbell to answer it how he wanted to answer it. But Dan Campbell gave us a little bit more than just no updates. He said by the time we leave here, by the time we leave Mobile, Alabama, where the Senior Bowl is, I'll have interviewed a couple of people for that job. Now, I don't know who that would be. I would assume it would be out of house options. There are many teams down there for the Senior Bowl. Mike Tomlin's down there. Maybe he's interviewing Mike Tomlin. I don't know if that make any sense, but I wouldn't be mad about hiring a guy like Mike Tomlin. No, it's probably not Mike Tomlin. So I don't know who he's interviewing. He said he wouldn't go into specifics on who those people are. One reason that he's probably able to do this is because of the free time that he has, because now he's in that advisory role for the Lions throughout the Senior Bowl instead of in the past him actually being the head coach at the Senior Bowl.
Just left the meeting with Brad, so we're we're talking about free agents. We're still talking about other guys that are going to be involved in the draft that aren't at the Senior Bowl, and so the work doesn't stop just because we're here, and so that actually helps me, frees up some of my time to be involved with kind of all of it, from this to what they're doing a little bit of, and then certainly go out to practice, meeting with other coaches, and then certainly at practice, what's hard is not to jump in a little bit, but it does help. Like yesterday, we spent most of the time, Brad and I, on the field, and he's got more intimate knowledge on some of these guys than I do. And so just to be able to watch and somebody catches your eye and then he gives you kind of the intel, so it's very beneficial for me. It helps.
Deuce Staley right now is in the head coaching role, Ben Johnson in the offensive coordinator role, and Aubrey Pleasant in the defensive coordinator role. So it's allowed him some free time. One thing that he said that they've been doing is, they went through other things. They went through free agency. One day he was talking to Brad Holmes about free agency that was upcoming. One guy they did bring up specifically for the Lions in-house that would be an option is the one that we're probably all anticipating here. It'd be Ben Johnson. He said, Ben Johnson, I think this is going to be an opportunity for him to be the offensive coordinator. Now, apparently it's limited on certain things that you're allowed to do. There's certain parameters and certain things that you're allowed to do schematically, even, I guess, from what I've been hearing on what they're allowed to do. So, the coaching staff was saying, well, some things won't look like what the Lions do. I think Deuce Staley said that. I'm not sure actually who said that, but they have certain things that they can and can't do, but he did view it as an opportunity. At very least, it's just being in that role and seeing how he performs in that role and seeing how comfortable he is in that position, and that's for all of the guys. A guy like Sean Payton did get involved. Of course, he'd have tons of connections. I mean, he's been with the Saints since 2006. He's been coaching since 1988, something like that. Back in the 80s, he's been coaching for a very long time. He's been with the Giants. He's been with the Cowboys. He knows a lot of people. So, yeah, he could probably recommend somebody. The immediate guy that came to my mind was Ronald Curry. I know it could be much deeper than that. It could be someone completely different that's not like the obvious choice. But Ronald Curry did immediately come to my mind because they did promote him to the quarterback's coach. And we did this video probably over a month now ago. You guys can check it out. It's on this channel where me and Rad went through offensive coordinator candidates. You can check it out. It is a long one, but there's a lot of candidates in there, so I think it's worth the watch. We did bring up Ronald Curry in that video, but just a quick little recap immediately came to my mind because Curry was a guy that was promoted to the quarterback's coach when Joe Lombardi left to take an offensive coordinator job. Now, he was a former receiver in the National Football League that was the receiver coach. He started off as an offensive assistant, worked up to a receiver coach, and then he took over the title of being a quarterback's coach as well. And I think that's a big responsibility they put on him because, remember, that was the first year without Drew Brees. So you're looking at Jameis Winston, Trevor Siemian, Ian Book. So to put him in that role when Joe Lombardi left, it kind of told me a little bit about maybe the trust and faith that he had in that guy to put him in that spot and promote him to that position. At that point, he wouldn't necessarily be a run game guy, and I'm not sure if he would actually call plays, especially if you are going to bring in a young guy. He could possibly help with that. I know I've been hearing a little bit of the Matt Nagy stuff. Please, no. Like, I really haven't even dove into it like that. I like to be fair because, well, maybe, things can get overblown big time. But from really what I know, please no. Just as simple as that. I really don't think I got to go much deeper than that. I really don't think I actually need to dive into anything here to really make a decision on whether or not I want Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator. I would be on the side of no, and I'm pretty sure that won't change. But Ronald Curry immediately came to mind. And I was looking at other guys they had on that Saints staff, guys that were promoted into bigger positions. And you have, their assistant to the head coach who is their defensive line coach. I was like, yeah, that probably wouldn't make a lot of sense. The guy that stuck out was Ronald Curry. He wouldn't be your run game guy. And that's kind of what you're losing in Anthony Lynn, a former running backs coach that became an offensive coordinator. But maybe Deuce Staley could then step into that role. Even without hiring an outside name, Deuce Staley could possibly take on, and I don't even know if they have anybody with this title, but he could take on the title of run game coordinator if you're going to hire a different guy to become your offensive coordinator. That's not Deuce Staley. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Deuce Staley at this point. So if you're going to hire someone that's not Deuce Staley, or in-house or out-of-house, you could possibly give him the role of run game coordinator. That's how Anthony Lynn got to where he was. He was a running backs coach, and then he became an offensive coordinator. So maybe he could do that. I don't know. Another idea that I'm very open to and I do like is maybe getting a run game guy to be your offense coordinator, even if that means not calling plays. Now, I'm cool. If you want to get an experienced guy that's going to come in and call plays, I got no issues with that. But either way, maybe a run game guy, and I think we went through some really good names, offensive line, running back coach, guys like that in our offense coordinator video, so you should check it out. I know it's long, but I think it's worth it. I'd be okay with that, maybe having him be the run game guy, because if you make Deuce Staley the run game coordinator, let's say you gave him that title, then he'd be your assistant to that coach, the running backs coach, and the running game coordinator. That may not be too much, I don't know, but I'm just saying, I don't know. However, if you had like a run game mind come in, even if he wasn't calling plays, you could have Ben Johnson then maybe become your pass game coordinator, but then I guess you don't want to take that title away from Aubrey Pleasant. But he could just kind of be that. I don't know. Maybe you can make up something. Hey, you're the offensive pass game coordinator. Or replace the defensive pass game coordinator. I don't know. I'm very open to having a guy like Ben Johnson step into that role. I mean, you could have Ben Johnson be your tight ends coach / offensive coordinator. And Stan Campbell hasn't decided whether or not he wants to call plays. This could be a very big, really weak / big game for a guy like Ben Johnson, because yeah, it's not as much about the scheme, but if Dan Campbell didn't want to call plays and Ben Johnson became the OC, at that point he'd be the play caller. So this is a big opportunity to at least get to see, because with a lot of guys you'd be hiring him, you wouldn't really get to see that if you're trying to ask him to do that. Comfortable he is with that role and how much you would trust that going forward. I mean, there's still situations in games. I know you're trying to see certain things, but there's still in-game situations there to see how he handles it. When in doubt, be aggressive. Dan Campbell will love it. We really don't have tons of update specifics, but Ronald Curry just immediately came to mind. I guess I wouldn't say don't be shocked if it's someone with some sort of connection to the Saints, especially if it happens after he meets, reportedly, whenever that's going to be, with a guy like Sean Payton. So I just want to throw it out there. They said they would be meeting. Now, speaking of coordinators, let's talk about the defense coordinator. Let's flip it a little bit, because the defense coordinator position is in a different spot. We may not have to fill this hole. I hope we don't. But our current defensive coordinator has the second highest odds of becoming the head coach for the New Orleans Saints. That's Aaron Glenn, because Sean Payton did retire. So he has the second highest odds to become the head coach. Now, what gives me optimism that he won't become the head coach is because Dennis Kelly's there currently as their defense coordinator. Dennis Kelly's young. He would be seemingly the guy that would step into that role. If they're going to go in-house, they would just say, okay, hey, Dennis Kelly, you're going to be our head coach because you're our current DC. It would feel weird. I mean, you could do it. It just kind of feels strange to take a guy that wasn't your defense coordinator, that's been a DC for 1 year, not even in your system, bring him in and put him over your current defensive coordinator. I don't know if Dennis Kelly's going to leave. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen, or he may get a job somewhere else. We'll see. But it sounds like if they're going to go in-house, Kelly's the most likely. He is first in odds to become the next head coach. And if they didn't do that, then it'd probably be outside of that, and maybe even outside of an option like Aaron Glenn. Unless Kelly went somewhere else to become a head coach, and then they're like, oh snap, let's go get Aaron Glenn because we need a head coach. The point is, I hope he doesn't leave. I mean, look, the defensively statistics, they weren't great last year. We all understand the circumstances, but it was not great last season. But a guy that was within their system, that understands the players, and even Dan Campbell says that he'd be a home run as a head coach. He knows he would be, but he says, I want to have AG here. I like Aaron Glenn. We want to have Aaron Glenn here. Also, like Aaron Glenn said, I want to be the best defensive coordinator the Detroit Lions have ever had. And he said, as of right now, that's what I am. He said, yeah, eventually, when the time comes, it comes, because I want to be a head coach. That's his goal, is to become a head coach. Completely get it. I understand it. So if he's going to get that offer and they're like, hey, you want to be our head coach? I'd take it too if I was Aaron Glenn. Yeah, you've only been here for a year, but it's cool. Completely understood. As he said, right now, he's here. He wants to be the best DC we've ever had. Now, with that being said, I'm pretty sure he did not get the Broncos job. I know there's a lot going on right now with, hiring people with the whole Brian Flores situation, but I'm pretty sure that's the last team that's up to. And I really don't think another team would hire him. Not going into anything crazy here, but just because he's only been here for a season, statistically we weren't very good, so it's kind of, you just don't see that very often. So a team without ties, I don't think would be very likely to hire Aaron Glenn. It's due in case that happened, because you got to have a contingency plan. Well, Dan Campbell brought up two guys. Number one, Aubrey Pleasant. I think that'd be the favorite in our minds, that he'd be the guy, he and Aaron Glenn. I think sometimes it gets overlooked that Aubrey Pleasant's a very big part of that, because he was not only our cornerbacks coach like he used to be, he was our cornerbacks and safeties coach, so he was specifically working with those guys. Yeah, Glenn was the whole kind of thing, and he had Dom Capers as his mentor, but the guy that was specifically with those positions was Aubrey Pleasant. And if you know anything about Aubrey Pleasant's past, like we went through this offseason, you can check out the video from this offseason we hired, because I was pumped. My favorite coaching hiring, because he has done magic. He has made magic with the guys that he's had in the secondary throughout his entire career as a coach. So he seems like he'd be the next guy up. And he also did bring up Todd Walsh, who he's not a very old guy. Todd Walsh, who was the defensive line coach. I mean, Todd Walsh has a very in-depth background as well. I mean, everybody did that got hired here. That's why we were so pumped for it. But he being our defensive line coach is also a guy that was brought up. But I think Aubrey Pleasant would likely be the favorite in that situation. I don't think the Lions would go out of house, but hopefully that doesn't become a talk anyway. Let's just keep doing what we got. The point is, doesn't sound like the Lions are in a super big rush. Ultimately, they're probably going to be building a similar type of way anyway. But we'll see if Sean Payton has any impact over that as we go through. But again, no to Nagy and no to the dang Jimmy G talk. Okay, look, stop. I get the joke. It's funny, but no. Okay, I don't even want to hear it. I do not want to hear Jimmy G for golf. Don't even try to explain yourself in the comment section and try to make that make sense. If you're gonna go in the comment section and try to explain to me why we should trade golf for Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't want to hear it. There's a reason they want to trade the guy, okay? Sorry, we're not going to get into that. I have a couple of notes from our general manager, Brad Holmes, and he didn't really go into any kind of specifics. As I said, he didn't have any updates on the OC or anything like that. They did ask him about Stafford, and he was basically like, I mean, they brought this up again. I won't go too far into this, but he was basically like, yeah, Stafford asked for a trade. Like Stafford asked for a trade. We were in two different phases, so he understood it, and he thinks both teams won that trade. He did talk about the quarterbacks because they asked him about them, and they're coaching the three guys, Bailey Zappi, Sam Howell, and they're also coaching Malik Willis. And he brought up those three guys. Now, what he immediately went to, which was interesting, if I put on my psychology hat here, I may have a little note for y'all. So he immediately brought up, he said it's interesting that all these guys have faced some sort of adversity. But when he went through it, he didn't even have adversity for Bailey Zappi. So it could have just been like, hey, he's talking and he's like, oh, shoot, okay, but maybe they're, But either way, maybe he's just flowing. But it could have been that Malik Willis was on his mind, maybe even Sam Howell. But I'm kind of having that Malik Willis vibe. That was on his mind. That's why he didn't say it first. And then when he got to Bailey Zappi, he's like, hold up, I actually don't know what that would be. I have no idea. Look, my psychology-ness is not good. But basically, he said with the three guys, you got Sam Howell. The guy lost a lot of his weapons. He did. We saw his numbers take a dip, but he still looked pretty good to me. I guess it is. It definitely is, and it could drop your draft stock if you have worse statistical numbers, which he did than the year prior. I believe he did have worse statistical numbers than the year prior. But one thing about Howell is he's got an arm. I know people have been questioning his velocity. Don't know why. Like, what did you watch on film that made you think he can't throw the ball? Like, I don't know what you're looking at. But that's been answered that, yeah, he can throw some zip. We'll talk about the game tomorrow. But anyway, just want to throw that out there. He also brought up then Malik Willis, and he said, transferring out, Malik Willis did to a smaller school and then performing there. So we brought that up. One thing with Malik Willis is that, man, the guy is just, to me, he's just like this right now. And he just makes some plays that are just unbelievable. And I bring this up again. We brought this up in the Senior Bowl video. Didn't watch him. I've seen the guy throw multiple no-look passes. The first time I saw it watching all 22, I was like, nah, that wasn't no look. But then I saw another one. I was like, hold up. I think he's actually throwing these. Unreal confidence. I will give him that. He's got unreal confidence, like almost too much confidence to a fault. I don't know if that's the thing, but he kind of does. Unreal, but at the same time, then you'll get throws that they're just bad. They're not accurate. He has some of the best throws and some of the worst decisions that you could possibly have. He needs development for sure. He needs to take care of the football, especially in this offense. Campbell talked about it. Hey, look, the guy, he's got a big arm, built to last. We know how, his mobility and his ability to escape. We are on this more in the quarterback video, the preview. So if you guys want to check that out, we kind of went through it deeper. But either way, we'll talk about that more again tomorrow and our thoughts from how they performed at the Senior Bowl going into the game. And then also, of course, Bailey Zappi, he said the production that he has. He talked about players. I mean, this is where they have to prove it. A lot of guys have a lot to prove, playing in different spots. I mean, one thing that's cool about the Senior Bowl is you got guys when they're going O-line versus D-line playing across the line of scrimmage. You got a guy one play line up at guard, and it kind of throws you off because you don't always know what position you're playing if you're not very familiar with the guy. But when you start to continue to watch over and over, you're like, oh, snap, he was at tackle. Now he's at guard. Now he's playing center. Zion Johnson, well-known guard coming out of this draft, moving to center, and he just didn't look the same when he went to center immediately. I was like, wait a minute, that's not his position. They're having him work the O-line to see that versatility, see how comfortable that they are in one-on-ones. It's cool. I like it, but that's something to prove. Prove that we can put you in the spot, and you can prove that now. If a team's like, well, I think you can actually fit this role, well, here's your opportunity to prove it. Not only in, of course, these one-on-ones, but also in the game. Now, there's limitations to that. There's been some guys that have stepped up, some receivers that have become interesting. Jalen Tolbert's interesting to me, big time. He's just had some drops that are like, ooh. I know Calvin Austin's been getting a lot of hype because his route running. He just reminds me so much of Khalif. Like, literally, Khalif Raymond was that dominant as a route runner. Like, if you don't believe me, trust me. At training camp, Khalif was like that as a route runner versus NFL players, okay? He looked like that. He reminds me a lot of Khalif Raymond, but also maybe a little bit more after the catch, a little more scoot and, quick turn, but gives me a lot of vibes. And we won't go on that, but that's for tomorrow. And then, of course, they asked about free agency. He said, this time around, we're going to have a little more money. But what I really took away from this, because this hit on the video that we dropped earlier today, it was about the Bengals. We brought this up. Bengals blueprint, right? Well, what did he say? He said, look, what I took away from the Bengals, from an outside view looking in, is that they just stuck to the course. They'll through the draft, supplement with free agents. That's how they want to do it, and they want to re-sign their guys. And that's kind of what Brad Holmes said. He immediately brought up the draft. He said, kept drafting, stick to the course, and they got that thing turned around. That's the Lions' plan, and it hits right on what we said in this morning's video. I know it's a long one, but I think it's worth the watch because he literally basically said what we said in that video. So I was like, oh, I'm hyped. No Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to end it there. Dive into this tomorrow, the Senior Bowl talk. Guys like that, hop in the chat. Let us know what you guys think, what you took away, who you like, what are our thoughts from the week. And then, of course, we have the game, which I think is on Saturday. It could be Friday, but I think it's Saturday. And then we'll have thoughts from that as well. We'll continue to dive into this offseason. Draft profiles will be really picking up now that the Senior Bowl is going to end. We're kind of still getting our overview, but I have guys on the list to go through. Chad Muma, he may be next up. I'm just going to say it now because I've already kind of dove into that. So those will be piling up big time. And we'll be in a free agency talk as well. So stay tuned for that. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.